Well, I'm not going to talk about plant flowers or trees, so that leaves ideas. So let's just visit ideas for just a moment. When I was 9 years old, I did a much better job of working with discovering, creating, inventing, just trying new things without whatever anybody thought. Didn't care. And so I just look back at that and I go, what happened? Well, that was so much fun. I had a friend named Danny. And we were coming up with new ideas every week, every day sometimes, just something weird and off the wall. It was all because we just kept our eyes open. We're aware of what was happening and what we could make out of something, you know, maybe an old board or a tree or something. When I later got into my career in the outdoor power equipment industry, which is lawnmowers, chainsaws, and string trimmers, I got acquainted with a fellow by the name of George Ballas. Now, George Ballas was a music teacher, or no, I should say a dance teacher, get that correct, who one day was sitting in an automatic car wash, and the brushes were going round and round and round, and he said, you know, maybe I could take that nylon string and put it on the end of a pole and use it to trim weeds without doing damage to the trees and stuff. And that's what he did. He went home and cobbled something together, began to walk around the neighborhood and knock on doors and say, can I trim your grass? And that's how the weed eater got started. Went from a dance instructor and in 7 years sold not only the invention, but the trademark, weed eater, $80 million later. Power of stuff. You know, you can't invest fast enough to beat that. Well, back to Danny and I, and Velcro. we had our circumstances. In one particular time, we were just in grade school, and we had a lot of similarities. As I've said before, both of us had older brothers, and we'd get our hand-me-down clothes. And some other things is we were both nearsighted, couldn't see anything. And no one knew it, you know, it was untreated. So we're at school and we're getting ready to play dodgeball. And our tactic was to stay as far away from the firing line as possible because we couldn't see these things coming at us. And so we were always up against the brick wall, back here just hoping that we could avoid getting smashed in the face. And it was at that moment, these sweaters that we got hand-me-down had these little fuzz balls all over them. I don't know if anybody remembers. I think they've improved them so much now that they don't have that anymore. But these things were just hideous. They were really inflicted with serious problems. And both of us had these on. He had a blue one on and I had a red one. Same almost identical sweater. And one time I leaned up against the brick wall and pulled away and it made a ripping sound. Velcro, right? And we go, hey, look, Danny, this thing pulls the balls off our sweater. So he got up and did his. Now, you know, this other point, Sarah, is you said don't care what anybody thinks. 9 years old, you've got to imagine the gossiping type and what they said when we both are standing up against the wall with our belly going up against the wall and giggling. You know? Had to look something else. But we were kind of scrutinized anyway because we couldn't see the chalkboard and we're horrible students. So they go, well, it's just them two nuts, you know, they're kind of dense. But what we did is we went straight home like we did with anything and tried to reproduce it. So we got something like a brick, got our sweater out and perfected it until it worked, until it started pulling these off. And we didn't tell anybody except Mrs. Cohen, who was our den mother in Cub Scouts. She was always open to our crazy ideas. So we knock on the door and as always sat down at her kitchen table and laid it all out there. We even had a yellow piece of construction paper with an ad advertising. We were going to put this on the market. We sat down and showed it to her and she was going, wow, that is really cool, guys. That's really neat. You really did some good thinking and just really made us feel great. And she looked over, saw a yellow piece of construction paper which was turned upside down. And she said, what's that? Danny turned it over. He said, "Does your sweater have balls?" And then together we both said, "Try our new invention called Balls Off." Oh, it made sense to us. At that point, she fell out of her chair, literally laughing. And it was at that point that the idea died. It died. No more thinking. So that's the other point. Be aware. Be awake for all that's happening around you. The discoveries that happen, follow them. Who cares? Put it out there. I know later, I tried Russ knows. I just for the fun of it tried to get a patent. I got it on this garden tool. Didn't work, but I got it patented. But that wasn't what was important. I named it Think Green. That was in '94. People weren't thinking green. And now that trademark is owned by Waste Management. And they won't sell it for anything. Just that close. So Velcro and the trademark, I let somebody else tell me that it wasn't any good. So whenever you hear that ripping sound of your kids undoing their tennis shoes, don't think Velcro. Think something else.